Welcome to Free Coding Academy's How Do Computers Work series. This is episode 3 and it covers how a motherboard works. So first, what is a motherboard? A motherboard refers to the large printed circuit board that connects and coordinates all the major parts of a computer. So the motherboard doesn't process data itself, but allows data to move between the CPU, memory, storage, and other devices which interact with the computer, such as input and output devices, etc. Next up, what are the parts of a motherboard? So first, you have the CPU socket, and this holds the processor and connects it to the rest of the system. Next, we have RAM slots, and this is where memory modules are installed. Then we have a chipset, and this is a set of controllers that manages how data moves between the CPU, memory, and other devices. So the chipset is often split into the North Bridge, which is in older boards, and it handles CPU, RAM, and graphics, and also the South Bridge, which handles input and output devices, storage, USB, etc. So what are the parts of a motherboard continued? Next, you have power connectors, and these distribute power from the power supply unit to the motherboard and other computer parts. Then we have expansion slots, and these are for graphics cards, sound cards, network cards, etc. Then we have storage connectors, and these connect hard drives and SSDs. Then we have input-output ports and headers. So this is where USB, audio, and other external connections can be found. Then we have the BIOS and UEFI chip, and this stores firmware that initializes hardware during booting up. So how does the motherboard allow communication between different components of the computer? The motherboard uses electrical pathways called buses to transfer data and signals between computer parts. So first we have the data bus, which carries actual data. And then you have the address bus, which specifies where data should go or come from. Finally, we have the control bus, which sends commands and timing signals. So buses allow the CPU to read from memory, write to storage, and communicate with devices and perform all these tasks on time based on the system clock. So what does the chipset do? The chipset acts like a traffic controller that decides how fast data can move and which computer parts can communicate with each other. What are form factors of the motherboard? So motherboards come in different sizes. Sizes are called form factors. So a form factor affects case size, number of slots, and expansion options. CPU sockets and RAM types must match the motherboard specifications. Next up, boot processes. So the motherboard contains firmware, BIOS or UEFI, that initializes hardware when the computer powers on in the following simplified steps. First, the motherboard performs a power-on self-test or POST. Then, the firmware loads the bootloader from storage. Then, control is handed over to the operating system. And that's it. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and watch episode 4 on how operating systems work next.